What is up, guys? As promised, y'all hit 1 million likes on TikTok the other day, and I promised you a free class. In fact, I think I promised two, so I'll get the other one scheduled. But this one, I think, is something that's very, very important, and it's something that I have noticed as I have stepped back into the paranormal community that isn't talked about, and that seems to be not common sense as you would think it is. So today's class, we are going to talk about personal safety, spiritual safety, and just safety in general when it comes to paranormal investigations. And I know that some of you probably kind of rolled your eyes a little bit and was like, wait, what? People don't know this? No, they don't. So we're going to do this class in a few different sections, let's say that. First, we're going to talk about personal safety, as in physical, common sense, you would think, safety before you go into a paranormal investigation. Then we're going to talk about spiritual safety, because that is a thing, and it's a big thing. And then we're going to talk about Ouija boards, because we're going to talk about them, okay? It seems to be a very taboo thing, but everybody loves them, and so we're going to talk about it. So y'all are lucky. I even have notes, so my brain will be organized today. So we're going to start off with talking about personal physical safety when doing paranormal investigations. Now, here's the thing. When you are doing a paranormal investigation, sometimes it's literally going to be in your house, right? It's going to be in your house. It might be in a friend's house. It might be in some place that, is relatively safe, correct? But the vast majority of the time, it is not going to be. The vast majority of the time, you are going to be in a very old building. You might be in a cemetery or a graveyard. You might be in, I don't know, ruins. You might be in some place that you never have expected, okay? I have done paranormal investigations in hotels that were current and running hotels. I have done investigations in houses that had not been lived in decades. I have done investigations in outdoor areas like steel mills. I have done investigations in places that used to be asylums. Every one of those presents their own specific type of hazard, problems, etc. So the very first thing that I want to talk about with paranormal safety is actually research your location. I don't like to do this, but I am lucky in that I have a team of people that go with me that do know about the location. So because I am a physical, spiritual medium, and I do a lot of different things, I personally prefer to go in blind. But this is a big but. I also have been trained in how to do this. And the main thing is I have a team of people that research the location, and they know, hey, this building has this building has this, there could be this. But you don't have to go through and research the whole history on a place. Here's what I recommend if you're just starting out and you don't have a team of people that can research for you. Look the location up and look at photos of it, okay? If you want to go in blind and you don't want to know the history, 100% respect, okay? But you need to look at photos of the location. Are there holes in the floors? Are there broken pipes? Is there broken metal? Are there places that could fall down? Or is this a house somebody currently lives in? You need to know the physical hazards of the place. I also highly recommend, when you're looking at the photos of the place, plan out the outfit that you're going to wear. You don't have to look cute on a paranormal investigation. It's hard for me to hear too. You need to make sure that you have on long pants and protective footwear. Do not go out to somewhere like an abandoned asylum that has rusty metal pieces everywhere in flip-flops. In fact, do not go to a paranormal investigation in flip-flops at all, because A, they make sounds, and B, they're easy to trip in. You need specific protective footwear. I have some boots that go all the way up to my knee that I wear. I have been in a lot of different places where there's snakes. I would prefer to not be bit. Common sense, long pants, protective footwear. If you have long hair like I do, I know some of you guys watch the Hell House videos. I had it in double braids. I pull my hair up something so my hair is not able to be snagged on anyone, anything. You need to look at this like you're going in to a dangerous location. Even if you're going into someone's house, okay? Anything at all that you are wearing, a lot of jewelry that clink around, don't do it. Or put it in your clothing so it can't clink. You don't want to add to the background noise. You don't want to have false results. Oh my God, we heard a noise. It was so-and-so's boot. Make sure that you are wearing protective clothing. Okay? Make sure that you have the right equipment. Now, the right equipment does, and I'm not talking about paranormal equipment, okay? When I go to a paranormal investigation, I have a backpack with me. Now, part of it is for all of the shit that we take to do the investigation, and the other part has the following things in it. A first aid kit, just a small one, a first aid kit. Even if I am dressed, if it's cold, I'm dressed up completely, I have gloves on, a hat on, all that shit, I guarantee you I have still cut myself, scraped something. Carry a small first aid kit. Make sure that you have your phones completely charged. And if possible, if there's no cell service, walkie-talkies. I have 2 backpacks. I ordered a backpack that specifically can be charged so I can charge my phones with the backpack. It was $20 on Amazon. You also want to make sure that you have gloves, that you have a mask, just the disposable N95 masks, anything at all that can keep you safe. I have been in some investigative areas where we've opened up a space and there was tons of dust and all kinds of stuff everywhere. If it's an older building, the chances are very high that there's asbestos, that there's lead paint. Yeah, it's cool if you catch a lot of really awesome paranormal evidence. Uncool if you end up getting really sick over it. Your health is not worth some EVP or a photo or an orb. Your health is not worth that. The next thing that I want to mention is invest in being trained to do paranormal investigations. I was lucky and that I had weird parents that loved to do this. And so I was trained how to do this from the time I was like, I don't know, 8. We had a specific protocol we did. We always went to somewhere in pairs. Nobody was ever by themselves. We always had a way to communicate, things like that. There are a ton of different courses out there that can give you the proper paranormal training. I am putting one together for you that not only covers safety and catching paranormal evidence and how to review it and debunk it, but also spiritual safety. So a much bigger course than just this class, because in stepping back into the paranormal community, I have found that there are so many people that do the most dangerous things. They do the most dangerous things. And what's bad is it's not just going to get them hurt. It's going to get other people hurt. The next thing that I want you guys to know is, I just mentioned it, but always go with the team. Do not ever, ever go anywhere doing anything with paranormal, anything in abandoned buildings, etc., by yourself. Abandoned buildings always will have hazards in them, whether it is falling debris, whether it is broken pipes, rusty metal. A lot of abandoned places have issues with the flooring. Okay? Always go with a team. Always go with a team. Don't ever go by yourself, period. You also want to make sure that you have permission to be in that space. Don't trespass. So-and-so knows so-and-so, and so-and-so said it was probably okay. You know, no. The person that owns that building, that land, etc., they need to be the one to let you in. If you are like, well, I don't want to pay to go in there, then you're not going in. I want you to think about that. Because let's say that you go to a place, you sneak in, and you get hurt. And then you try to sue the person, because I've seen this happen. You try to sue the person that owns the building, and they say, we didn't even know you were there, and there are no trespassing signs all around. You're going to catch some charges. No video, no photo, no evidence, no clout is worth going into a place and getting hurt and then catching charges over it. Think, McFly, think, okay? The next thing that you want to do, especially when you're in a group, the leader of that group should have ground rules that are set. So these are things like, how do you communicate with each other if all of the phones go dead? Because that happens a lot in paranormal investigations. If you all watched the Hell House stream that we did, then you know that all our equipment died. Have signals for maintaining contact. Know how to get in and out of a place if you do get separated. Your leader, your investigative lead, should have protocols. You also need to know if there are areas that are off limits. Let's say that you're going to a penitentiary. Sass and I will be going into West Virginia penitentiary here in a couple weeks, and there are some buildings that are off limits. There are some buildings when you go anywhere that there may be asbestos or lead paint. And the people may say, hey, we can't allow you in there for safety reasons. Or, hey, there's issues with the flooring. We can't allow you in there. Know where you're not allowed to go and know where you are allowed to go. And your investigative lead should tell you this. The next thing I want to talk about is being mindful of personal energies. Paranormal investigations come with a very interesting set of issues that people don't really talk about. And that is how they can drain you emotionally and energetically. Usually after a paranormal investigation, I'm wiped. I'm wiped out. It doesn't matter if the whole time equipment's going off, we caught the greatest shit, we're only in there for an hour, can't wait to go back. I'm still exhausted the next day. Because a lot of times the entities, the beings, the angels, the demons, the elementals, whatever, they need the energy that the investigative team brings in to be able to communicate. The other thing too is that just if you're not used to being up, moving around, walking up and down stairs, being outside, being inside, heat, cold, etc., it's really taxing on you physically as well. So your investigative lead needs to make sure that you guys have break times. As you guys have seen, and this is why I love doing the live investigations where you guys can come and watch, is I want you guys to see how an actual investigation goes. Usually what you see on TV is a very polished, edited show. So it shows you them setting up. It shows you some of them going through evidence and them walking around and so on. It doesn't show the breaks. It doesn't show when someone gets exhausted and has to sit for a while. It doesn't show hours and hours and hours of going through the evidence. It doesn't show all of the other things that go with a paranormal investigation. So when you go to a paranormal investigation and you assume it's going to be like it is on TV, it's not, because what you're seeing is this edited, polished to fit in a time slot. You're not seeing all the other stuff. So you need to be very careful of your own energy. You need to make sure that you have eaten. You need to make sure that you've slept. You need to make sure that you're well hydrated. In the backpack I carry, I always have bottles of water, always, and snacks. And it's not just because I'm diabetic and my sugar crashes. Energetically, you need carbs to keep going. I also always will have, like at the door or in the control room, a bag that has Gatorade, that has, I love Propels. I have those in there. Coffee, like things like that. Okay. Be very aware of the psychological effects. This is the next one, of a paranormal investigation. I'm going to say that again because I want it to sink in. Okay. Be very aware of the psychological effects of a paranormal investigation. I have been on tons of investigations with other people where someone with them came through in the investigation. So maybe we're trying to speak to the bartender and Sam's sister comes through. Maybe Sam hasn't heard from his sister in 10 years. She passed away 10 years ago. That's going to have a deep psychological effect on Sam. He's been dying to hear from his sister, and she comes through in a bar in some haunted location that he never expected to be at. There are also going to be things that you hear on a paranormal investigation that they don't put in the TV shows. The way that someone passed. Violence. You're going to hear screams. You're going to hear sounds. You're going to have stuff thrown. The reason I want to talk about spiritual safety is because I've been on a lot of paranormal investigations where people have gotten scratched, bruised, pushed, their hair pulled. If you've never experienced something like that before, if you're not well versed in protecting yourself spiritually, and don't get me wrong, it can still happen even if you're very spiritually protected. If you've never had that happen, it can fuck with you. It's one thing when a human person comes and scratches you. You can see that bitch coming usually. It's one thing when a person shoves you. That's one thing because you know that's a physical person. You can see him, you can get back at him. But when it's a ghost, when it's a spirit, when it's an egregore, when it's a mimic, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you sometimes not even feel it when it's happening. There's a deep psychological effect that happens from that. The next thing I want to talk about is instincts. Trusting your instincts. I know that you guys have all watched different shows and stuff like that, where there's a group of investigators and one of them is like, I don't feel comfortable in here. But they do it anyway. When they're told no, and they do it anyway. I have been to a lot of places. In fact, if y'all watched the Hell House live, you saw this happen. I've been to a lot of places where I went to go in a room, I went to go down a hallway, I went to go in a building, and I was explicitly told no. First of all, trust your gut. If your gut says you don't need to go in that room, don't go in that fucking room. The other thing you need to do is trust your body and trust yourself. And here's why. And I'm going to use Hell House as an example. And I will probably put this out as a public thing so you guys can see. I went to walk down a tunnel in the basement, and I got a couple of feet in, and I almost went to look in this room right here, and every bit of the hair on my arm started standing up. I got goosebumps all over the place, and 100% I knew in my gut I was not to take another step back toward that tunnel. So I didn't. And I said, okay, and I backed up. If you get a sign like that and you continue to go down there, you get what you get. That is 100% how people get things attached to them. That is how they piss things off and how they end up in a world of hurt later. I know every one of you has heard the saying, better safe than sorry. I know that every one of you has also either watched a horror movie or a horror TV show, or you heard on a video or on an article or whatever about somebody bringing home something with them. That happens. That actually happens. And let that sink in. That actually happens. You need to have an experienced investigator with you at all times, leading your group, that can help with psychological effects of some of these things, that can help you know, ooh, yeah, that was absolutely a no, don't go down there. The next thing I want to talk about is having an exit strategy. Those of you guys with anxiety, you have one for everywhere, so I'm not worried about you. But you need to have an exit strategy for the place that you're in. Where are windows? Where are doors? Where is a hallway? How do you get out of a room? Just like you would if you were teaching your kids how to get out of your house in a fire. Or where would you go if a storm popped up during an investigation? Because the weather is stupid lately. So, have an exit strategy. If you get separated, have a place where you meet up so everyone's accounted for. Have a buddy system. I can't mention this enough. So in the military, when you're in basic training, they have something called a battle buddy. I don't know if that's what they call it anymore, but that's what they called it when I was in the 90s. And the two of you were like this. Didn't matter if you liked that motherfucker or not. You were going everywhere with them. You couldn't go to eat without them. You couldn't go to take a poop without them. You couldn't go to the store without them. You had a battle buddy. Okay? I want you to think about that whenever you're in a paranormal investigation. You need a battle buddy. Period. The next thing I want to talk about, and then after this, we're going to start talking about spiritual protections. You need to make sure that you have a post-investigation debriefing. So a post-investigation debriefing is when you go in, everybody sits around, relaxes, gets something to drink, gets something to eat, and you talk about what happened, how you feel, any unusual things that happened. Did all the equipment die? Did, somebody get scratched? This is also a good time for those people that are lead investigators to be able to offer emotional support. If someone's like, man, my mom has been gone for 20 years and we caught a photo of her, that has a deep emotional response. I got scratched. That has an emotional response. So I want you to think about that. Okay? A lot of the things that I just mentioned are common sense. They're common sense, physical safety things. But I see way too much with people getting just so excited to be able to go into a place that they forget about these things. And then I see people get hurt. And part of me is like, channeling my inner red foreman. Well, you're a dumbass. Don't be a dumbass. Okay, don't be a dumbass. Let's talk about spiritual protections when doing a paranormal investigation, because this right here is a humongous one. A humongous one. And it's one that I find my mind is always blown when people don't think about these things. Let me fix you over here on TikTok. When people don't think about these things, but I also remember that not everybody was raised in the way that I was raised. The first one we're going to talk about is setting your intentions, okay? And here's what's funny. Whenever I hear someone say, oh, you need to set intentions, I roll my eyes, even though I know that it is key. Setting your intentions is one of the easiest and most powerful things you can do. If you're going into a place, you need to set your intentions. What is it you're going in there wanting to find? What is it that, do you just want to be able to communicate with something? Do you just want to enjoy the location? To be honest, that second one is how you should go in every time. I personally don't like to set the intention or the expectation that I'm going to catch something. I would rather go in with the idea that I'm going to enjoy being in this place that I've never been before. And I am never disappointed. I am never disappointed at all when I go in with that. If I go to a place and I'm like, ooh, I've never been here before, I'm so excited, I just can't wait to see it. I can't wait to experience, you know what I mean? Go in like that, okay? Go in like that. I don't recommend setting intentions on, I want to catch this. I want to communicate like this. I don't recommend that, because you will be disappointed every time, and it will taint your future investigations. It will taint how you feel about that investigation. And to be honest, it can also cause you to lose passion for paranormal investigations. The next one we're going to talk about is grounding techniques. And this is really, really key. Part of what I want to talk about with this, there's a couple of things that go into my personal grounding techniques, and I am going to share them with you. You need to make sure that you have on something that is protective for you. For example, I put my whoopee on for this particular class on purpose. My hoodie that I call my whoopee has patches from all over the place. When I got it, it was something specific. It means a lot to me. I also have a patch from my grandpa that's in here. I have a lot of things in this jacket. This is my safety blanket. It goes everywhere I go. So I take it with me on paranormal investigations. It doesn't matter if it is 2 degrees or 200 degrees. I have this with me at all times. It may be in the backpack. It may be tied around my waist. I may have it on. But I have this with me at all times because this is my safety blanket. The other thing about this, and this is we're going to talk about this part a lot. I have several things that are inside of this jacket that are there for protection. I want you to think about that. Under some of these patches, I have warded the patches before I put them on. That way it can't come off in the wash. Because if you've ever used any kind of paint, any kind of fabric marker, you know that eventually shit comes off in the wash. So if you are going to get a hoodie, if you're going to get a jacket or something that you can have with you during all the paranormal investigations, I highly recommend finding some patches. And like underneath this one, there's a big warding down here to protect me. And then not only is it closed in with the material, but it's closed in with the patch. I have things inside the cuffs. I have things inside the nape of the neck. Okay? I want you to think about those things. The other thing that I do is I ward the bottom of my feet before I go into a location. Physically on my feet. In henna, in Sharpie. If I forget, I always in my bag have a pair of socks that's been warded. I don't give a shit. I will sit in the parking lot and change out my socks. I don't care. Because I was taught that where you walk, your footsteps are important. Things can follow your footsteps. I was taught that if you're wearing boots, you put an iron nail in the heel. You drive an iron nail in the heel. That will keep any spirit from following you home. Your feet are very important. Your feet are what ground you. Your feet are what connect you with the earth and the place you're investigating. So, why would you not ward your shoes, your socks, your feet? I have designed some socks that specifically are for protection. They're on my website. But I've mentioned this a couple of times and people's minds are blown. They're like, I didn't even know that. You're lucky you haven't had something follow you home. Grounding is very important. When you go into a place, you need to ground yourself to that place before you walk in there. And notice I said to that place. Every different place has a different energy. So let's say I'm going to an asylum, okay? It's been closed for 50 years. That place is going to have a different feel than if I'm going to Susan's house down the street because she just bought this new house and there's activity in it. People have been living there since it's been built. Those two places have such a different energy. You need to ground yourself to each one. Stand in front of the place. You don't have to take your shoes off if you don't want. I usually will bend down and put my hand on the ground, just kind of touch the ground outside the place. Take a couple deep breaths. I'll just kind of center myself. I'll look all over the building, the house, the things I can see. Just kind of align my energy with that. Okay? It's not hard. You don't have to do some big ritual. You just need to breathe and kind of center yourself. Okay? When you go on breaks and you're allowed to go outside, you need to do the same thing before you go back in. Center yourself. When I walk outside, I'm shaking my hands like this all the time. As a Reiki practitioner, as an energy worker, you carry so much energy in your hands. Did you guys know that there are hundreds of chakras just in your hands? Did you know that every single area of each finger has a chakra? There's a huge one, right? Do you know that? So everything you touch, every bit of energy that passes through your hands, the air, all coincides and activates these chakras. You can literally just shake them off. The other thing you can do is just clap them like that. Just, that will help to clear those chakras. Okay? Everybody also has their own type of grounding that they do, whether it's a specific stone, a piece of jewelry, something their grandma, mom, whoever taught them. Do that. You're going into a paranormal place. You're going into a place that has activity that is no longer meat sack human. And if that is how you were taught to ground and protect yourself, 100% do it. My dad is Cherokee and Potawatomi, and there were specific things we did walking into a place and walking out of a place. For example, I was taught when you leave a place, especially that has a paranormal, that has paranormal activity in it, you wipe your feet as you're exiting the place. Even if, let's say, you step off the step, there's like 3 concrete steps, you step off the step, you get to the bottom, I'm wiping my feet. I don't care if it's dirt, concrete, I don't care. I'm wiping my feet off. Because anything that was in there that is on my shoes needs to stay. Think about things like that. When you go to a place and when you leave a place, you need to cleanse yourself. A, you don't want to take any of your people and leave them there. And B, you don't want to take any of the people there and bring them home. I highly recommend carrying Palo Santo, Yerba Santa, whatever sage you prefer, incense, anything like that. Okay? And just, you help somebody, they'll help you go over everything. I also, when I go places, I bring bottled water, like I said. I will also usually bring a lime. Or if I forget, there's always a grocery store somewhere. You can go get a lime. Lime is for spiritual cleansing. So especially when you drink it, it can help to purge all that out. Let me pause right here, because I see there's some comments about different things. Palo Santo, sage, yerba santa, cedar, incense, cinnamon, none of those are closed practices. And if that's how you feel about it, then you can go watch someone else. I'm just saying. One thing that I love-hate about social media is the information and the misinformation. So I'm just saying. Once you have your protective aspects, the other thing you want to do is you want to talk to your spirit team. Like when you're about to walk into a place. If you know that you have a protector, if you know that you have a guardian angel, if you know that grandpa, mom, aunt, your dog Fido, whoever is usually with you, be like, hey, I'm a little nervous about this place. Like, will you kind of make sure that I'm okay? Just ask them to just be with you. Okay? Just ask them to be with you. Now, there's a balance with that. Because if you put too much protection on yourself, if you call in all the archangels and so on, you are not going to get evidence. You're not. I've seen it happen too many times. I've seen it happen too many times. Where someone has called in all of the archangels and all of the saints and all of this stuff, and then they don't understand why they didn't catch anything, but everybody else did. Because you called in every single protector that you could think of, so you would walk through that place protected. Well, guess what happened? You walked through that place protected. And the things in there were like, whether they wanted to talk to you or not. You literally went in a bubble. So nothing could talk to you, see you, hear you, nothing. So be really, really careful on how much protection you put on yourself. There are certain things, I usually wear a lot of jewelry, bracelets, earrings, etc. I usually don't wear as much during an investigation. If something wants to communicate, I'm happy to communicate. If it's good or bad. And we'll talk about that in a second. Are there a few things I always wear? Absolutely. So let's talk about crystals next. Because I know that some of you guys are like, well, what crystals should I take and what shouldn't I take? I highly recommend the following crystals that you can take, okay? Quartz, clear quartz. I always have this pendant. I have a garden quartz pendant. Clear quartz. Here's why. Clear quartz is an amplifier. So let's say that you're in a building and let's say that there's a kid in there that, you know, maybe this kid passed away from a high fever. This kid's very shy and it doesn't know how to get its energy up very well. A clear quartz can help amplify that. Black tourmaline is the next one. Black tourmaline not only is wonderfully grounding, but it can help to keep psychic attacks from happening. So let's say that I have a black tourmaline ring that I always wear. Let's say that you're in an asylum and there were people in there that were not in their right minds that are still in there. They can 100% try to attack you. Black tourmaline is always one that I carry with me. Smoky quartz is the next one. You guys know I always wear this ring. This is one that goes in. I sleep in it and everything. Smoky quartz will help to take negative energy and turn it into something good. Okay? Amethyst is the next one. Amethyst offers not only a boost for your intention, but it also offers a lot of spiritual protection. So it can help shield you against unwanted energies. Now, there's a fine line with amethyst. Don't be dripping in it when you go in. You're not going to get any evidence at all. I sometimes will take amethyst in, but when I do, I try to take it, and this is a Super 7 bracelet. So a Super 7 is 7 different crystals that have formed together. They usually form on amethyst, and they do so because the other 6 things that are in this, they can't really form a crystal on their own. Or I will take a chevron amethyst, like a banded amethyst. And I usually will take a very small one with me in my pocket. But I want to make a but here. If you are newer to doing paranormal investigations, take a big amethyst with you. Wear a big pendant. Wear earrings. Wear whatever makes you feel better. Okay? I have been doing this a very long time. I have my own technique for speaking with and dealing with any type of entity. If you are newer, then until you go through some training, until you have a solid feel for how you are in an investigation, don't be trying to talk to negative entities. Don't be trying to be open to them. Don't be trying to entertain anything from them. Okay? So if you're brand new to investigating, yes, wear your amethyst. Yes, wear your amethyst. Okay? The next one I want to mention is selenite, and you need to have this with you in your car or in your bag or whatever. Because when you walk out of that place, you need to be holding on to that bitch. You need to be holding on to that bitch. I actually have a palm stone that I carry with me. I've dropped it. It's been broken in half. I've fixed it because I was like, oh no. This thing goes everywhere in my purse with me. So when I get off an airplane, when I get out of a paranormal investigation, I'm holding on to that bitch. All of my negativity is getting soaked up. I also bring it with me because at night after an investigation, all my jewelry, I have a little copper plate dish bowl thing. The selenite goes in there because copper will amplify. Copper is a generator. All my jewelry goes on top of it. I don't care if I have a mound of jewelry on top of it. Copper, the selenite, all my jewelry. Okay. This next one is one that gets me, and I don't understand. Okay. And that is being respectful. You would think that this is common sense. You are going into a place with paranormal beings, with ghosts, with egregores, with mimics, with angels, with demons, with elementals, beings that don't operate the same as a meat sack person operates. A meat sack person's disrespectful to you, you can pop them right in the fucking mouth, right? A meat sack person is disrespectful to you, you can throw that bitch in a fucking jar, right? You can't pop a ghost in the mouth. And sometimes they can pop you. There is a difference between being firm and being disrespectful. There's a big difference. I was taught that when you go into a locale and you're starting to get evidence that the thing you're talking to, A, is not nice, and B, was never human, I will talk to it for a minute. If it growls, if we start getting, I've been cussed out, all kinds of stuff like that, I will cut that off. I will cut that off in a heartbeat. And I will happily say, I am done speaking to you. You're not allowed to talk to anybody else on my team. I'm cutting off this conversation. You're not allowed to follow me out of this room. You need to stay in here until we leave. Like, I'm very, very hardcore specific with it. Yet I see people all the time that are disrespectful on purpose. On purpose. Because they feel like the only way they're going to get a rise out of the entities in there is to be mean or disrespectful. That is how shit follows you home. That is how your life falls apart. That is how you have nothing but problems every time you go to an investigation. Do you guys not think that ghosts and entities and demons and angels and all of that can communicate? They're not bound by meat sacks or cell phones or computers. Do you not think that the people that are very, very hateful and rude, my nose is itching, somebody's talking about me, the people that are hateful and rude and disrespectful, do you not think that they also get a reputation on the other side? Think about that. If you go to work and you have one coworker that is just a dick, they're a dick. They do their job. They're real good at their job, but goddamn, they're a dick. And let's say you work for a big company and maybe you work in a different state than that person. They're going to get a reputation. So that way, if you have to call them for something or you have to email them, you're like, oh, you don't want to because you know they're going to be a dick. The same thing goes for the other side. The same thing goes for the other side. Do you know why I always get evidence and I always have a good investigation? Because I'm respectful. I set boundaries and I don't take any bullshit, but I'm respectful. That was the very first lesson that my parents taught us in investigation, is to be respectful. Ask for permission to go into a room. Ask for permission to touch something. And not just from the person that owns the house or the building. Ask polite questions. What's your name? What can I call you? What would you like me to call you? Be respectful. If you know that you're going to a place, let's say there is a very rich Native American history in it. You need to research what tribes were there. Was it one specific tribe? Was it a meeting place? Was it a trade center? What were their customs? Do you bring a gift? Do you bring an offering? Do you bow? Do you see what I mean? Research. And that brings me to my next thing. Offerings. I don't care if you're witchy or not. I don't care if you're a practitioner. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're Buddhist, Muslim. I don't care. Take an offering to the location. This can be a flower. It can be a cookie. It can be tobacco. I carry tobacco with me. I also carry the small little bottles of liquor. Tobacco and liquor are always fantastic offerings, but so is food. So is food. So is water. Always take an offering. Always take an offering. It's just respectful. Okay? It's just respectful. You don't have to make a big show of it. You know, it can be as simple as, you know, you're driving to the locale, you start to pull up and there's some really pretty little wildflowers and you just pick some wildflowers and go put them on the step before you go in. It's that easy. It's that easy. Don't overthink it. Just something from the heart. Okay? The next thing I want to talk about is establishing a closing procedure before you leave. One of the things that I was taught to do was to say thank you to any of the entities that have spoken to you, and even the ones that don't. So when I leave a room, I either say it out loud or I'll whisper it, you know, like, thank you so much for talking to us. When I enter a place, I leave something, and I usually kiss my fingers and I will pat the door frame or a stone, whatever is marking the entrance to the place. And I just say hello. That's my way of saying hello. It's not a big thing. I just, like that. That's my hello. So when I leave, I do the same thing. So let's say I'm going in a door frame, okay? I'm walking through the door. I usually will put my hand on the door. If it's my first time there, I'll put my hand on the door and I'll just say hello to the space. Spaces are living things as well. They have their own living energy in them. So I'll just put my hand on it. I'll say hello. I'll kiss my fingers and I'll pat a couple of times. When I'm leaving, before I walk out that door, I try to go out the same door that I came in, unless there's an emergency. And then usually I'll go back around. I've only had it happen once. I will go back around to the door that I went in and say my goodbye there. I will do the same thing. I will kiss my fingers and I will put it on the door frame and I'll pat a couple of times and I'll leave my hand there and I'll just say thank you and I'll see you later. Like, goodbye, I'll see you later. I leave a respectful goodbye. So I did that when I went to Hell House last summer for the TV show. And when I came back, it's really funny. And I want to tell you why it's important to establish a connection with the space. So when I went before, I said hello to the house, kind of walked around outside, filmed some little videos and so on. But I said hello to the house because before any entity in there talks to me, I want to say hi to the space first, because the space is what is keeping the entities there, keeping the entities happy, sad, etc. It's keeping the entities there, right? So I want to say hi to the space. So I said hi to the space. When I left, I said goodbye. I was respectful and nice, and I said goodbye. And I was kind of sad to leave, I'm not going to lie. The closer we got to getting to Hell House, when I was there on the 8th, I started to get excited because it was like going to see a friend. It was like going to see a friend. So when I got there and I walked up to the house, like I wanted to just hug the house. I was so excited to be there. And it's like I could tell the energy was excited for me to come back. I was like giddy. Like I almost wanted to like hug the house. And I kind of did. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of did. But I did the same thing. I patted the house and I put my hands on both sides and I actually put my face against the door frame and I was like, hello, house. I don't give a shit how I looked. I don't give a shit if people were like, well, that's dumb. You know what? We got some amazing fucking evidence in that house. In fact, I screen recorded the part in the basement and I'm going to edit it because I can't put it all on TikTok. I'm going to edit it so you guys can see what happens, A, when you're respectful, and B, when you make an established connection with the space you're in. Be respectful. Have a technique for going in, have a technique for coming out. And you don't have to have some huge closing ritual. It literally can be exactly what I said. Always say thank you. Even if you didn't get any evidence, even if you got nothing, say thank you. Say thank you. Always thank the entities there and always thank the space. So let's talk about some of the different investigative tools that you can get to take with you. Now, let me say this. You don't have to spend a fuck ton of money on tools to take with you. A lot of times, if you go to a place, they will have equipment you can rent. Sass and I are putting together rental equipment for you guys to come with us and so on, because some of this shit gets really expensive. Not gonna lie. One thing that is one of my favorite things to take is actually the little, I had them downstairs. I should have brought them up here. The little LED cat balls. They're about this big. They have a button. You turn them on and off. You set them down. And when something touches it, it goes off. You can get a set of like 15 for less than 20 bucks. Seriously. Dowsing rods are my next favorite thing. If you are wanting to get dowsing rods, though, you need to know how to use them correctly, how to hold them correctly, so you're not manipulating the answer. I will use dowsing rods because I have a specific set that has a roller on the bottom that can't be stopped. There are so many great apps on your phone that you can get for free that are spirit boxes. I personally love Ghost Tube and I love Ghost Tube Vox, VOX. Those do cost, I think it's like $5 for the year or something. They're worth it. They're worth it because it will also record. If you hit record, it will record everything as well. Digital recorders are another huge thing. You already have one on your phone. You already have a digital recorder on your phone for free. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go buy a little digital recorder if you want. If you do, go for it. But you already have one for free. Just saying. You already have it for free. EMF meters. I also had one of them downstairs. I should have brought them up. These are the little boxes that have the lights on the top. They have gone up a little bit recently because of everything, but they're usually less than $15. They're awesome fun because you can actively communicate, you know, if it's a yes, can you light it up to the orange? And they light it up to the orange. Can you turn it off if it's a no? And they'll turn it off. They're really easy to use. The only thing about them is you need to make sure that they're not around something else with an electronic signature. So a tablet, a cell phone, a camera, video equipment. You want to take a base reading of the area first. Okay? So take a base reading by the pipes, by any electrical wires, by outlets. So you know if you get close over here, you're going to get a tainted result. I've seen a lot of times where people are holding their phone. I hit myself in the face. They're holding their phone and their EMF meter on top of their phone and it's going off the entire time. And they're like, oh, I'm getting so much evidence. No, you're not. It's reading your cell phone. It's reading your cell phone. Make sure if you're using an EMF meter that you take a base read of the area first. That is one thing that I loved about ghost hunters. I first started watching them when they first came out. They would always take base readings of the space with their equipment before they started investigating. So they knew if they went over like behind the bar area, there's electricity and it's going to make their equipment go higher. Thermal imaging cameras are the next one. There is one that I bought off Amazon that it's about this big. It was like $90. It's fucking fantastic. I'm not going to lie. I was super impressed with it. You don't have to spend money on a thermal imaging camera. if you don't want to. Some of these other things down here that I'm going to talk about on this down here on this list, you don't have to have. I just want to go through some of them with you. Okay. Thermal imaging cameras catch hot and cold spots. So yes, they will catch a person. Like if Joe is standing over there, they'll catch Joe. But let's say Joe's the only one over there and suddenly somebody else walks up. You know that ain't Joe. Do you see what I mean? It can also show different areas of really cold spots that are unexplained. I love thermal imaging cameras also because you can get whole outlines of apparitions on them. And there's nothing like that feeling when you see that. Infrared cameras, IR cameras are the next ones. These are ones that are like night vision kind of in a way. So these allow you to take photos or see in the dark. And a lot of the photos that come from them are phenomenal because you didn't realize that that was right there in front of you because you couldn't see it with your meat sack eyeballs. We talked about spirit boxes, ghost boxes. They're fantastic. They're fantastic. Even though I just mentioned the 2 that I personally like, I probably have 8 on my phone. And there are sometimes I'm like, you know what? This one isn't working good. Let me do this one. We talked about dowsing rods a little bit. Just be careful with them because they are very easy to manipulate. One of the other things that recently I have come to really, really love are the stationary pendulums. So the pendulums that they usually have a sand base in the bottom. The thing comes all the way up, and then you have a thing that hangs down. You can ask for the pendulum to move. And you know you're not touching it. No one else is touching it. It's just there. It's just there. I personally love equipment that does not take a human to utilize it. In fact, you have to back off from it. Then you know no one's breathing on it, no one's tainting it, etc. I take a notebook and a pen, but it's only because I do automatic writing sometimes at some of these places. You don't have to. A digital camera is a good thing as well. If you take your phone with you, you already have a digital camera. Take some photos with a flash and without the flash. Don't insist on going through them right then. You can go through them later, I promise. I promise. REM pods are another item that you're going to see a lot in investigations. They're really expensive. If you buy one that someone has put together, they're usually like a round thing about like this. They have an antenna. They usually have lights, or they play a sound or music or whatever. One of the things about REM pods is that they can scare the shit out of you. I'm not going to lie. Like, let me tell you why. I've been in some locales where they're really loud, or you have one in another room and you forget it's there and it goes off. It can make you jump. It can make you jump. I'm not going to lie. There are also different kinds of motion activated equipment. Like, there are lights, there are ropes. I just ordered a really cool, I guess it's technically a REM pod, but there's a lot of places on Etsy that they build these things in dolls or whatever. I ordered a dog because I thought, how cool would that be, especially in an asylum or a prison or somewhere where there's children, for them to pet the dog. There was another one that I was just going to talk about, but now I can't remember. There's a whole bunch of motion activated Halloween decorations that you can get for less than 20 bucks. Think about this, okay? Now, yes, you can scare the shit out of yourself with them. But if you have like a little clown or a little doll that is motion activated, you literally can ask the entity to go in front of it. Less than 20 bucks. There's also something called an SLS camera. These things are really, really expensive, so don't think you have to have one. But this maps beings on the screen. So let's say with the video I'm going to put out from Hell House, they had the SLS on me when I was in an area. And part of the time, yes, you could tell that it was mapping me, but because I had a headlamp on so you could see me. But There was also another being that was kneeling, trying to pick up something that I had touched, that I had laid down there. There are times when you can get beings on the SLS. There's no one in the room. There's no one over there, no human person, but you're catching people. They're really, really cool. The next thing I want to talk about really quick is Ouija boards. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about them. So Ouija boards, no one really knows exactly when they came out. They believe it was the 1850s when they came out as a spirit board. I have a love-hate relationship with Ouija boards, and I'm going to tell you why. I love them, and I feel like they are a good tool to utilize for spirit communication. I hate them because it means you have to have 2 or more people, and they are easy to manipulate. They are easy to manipulate. The thing about a Ouija board is this. There is a process and a protocol to using a Ouija board. You need to say hello, you need to activate it, you need to open it up, and you need to have it protected before you do so. When you are done using a Ouija board, you need to say goodbye, you need to close the session out, you need to put it up correctly, you need to cleanse it. There's a lot that goes with them. If you're going to a place that is known for its activity, especially if it has negative entities in it, I personally don't recommend taking a Ouija board. I really don't. Because if you're inexperienced with a Ouija board, you can end up bringing something back in that Ouija board. It's a thing. It's a real thing. I'm not trying to scare you guys with this stuff. It's about saying something can follow you home or whatever, because it's not just in the movies that shit happens. It actually happens. I don't recommend taking a Ouija board anywhere. If they have one at the locale that you can utilize and you want to, that's different. That's different. Okay? Ouija boards are a whole other class, but I wanted to touch on them because some people feel like they're a really solid paranormal tool. I feel like with all of the spirit boxes and the digital recorders and everything now, that it's much better solid evidence if you use one of those than a Ouija board. So, I'm just saying. So with that is a little over an hour-long class of paranormal safety. But I do want to address one question. I saw this at the very beginning of the class, and I wanted to address it more towards the end because it didn't fit in anywhere. Someone asked if I do exorcisms or if I was going to teach exorcisms. Absolutely not. And I don't recommend that you do either. And here's why. No matter what you think of the church, there is a whole area of the Catholic Church that goes through years, decades of training to be able to perform an exorcism. You cannot learn how to do an exorcism by reading out of a book. You cannot learn how to do an exorcism by watching a video on TikTok or YouTube. You cannot learn what you need to learn to be able to do an exorcism and not have that demon or entity go right into you just on a whim. I stand on that with my whole chest. The people in the Catholic Church that have learned and trained in doing exorcisms have dedicated a big portion of their life to doing it professionally, and that is who you should reach out to. Period. If there is something that you feel like you need to reach out to a priest for with an exorcism-esque question, then that's what you need to do. And here's the next thing I'm going to say with my entire being. if there is someone that's a spiritualist, that's a spiritual advisor, whatever the fuck they say they are, and they're telling you that they can do an exorcism and they do not have a background in the Catholic Church, they have not been to seminary, they have not done training, they have not actually been on exorcisms, they have not done all of the work that it takes to do an exorcism, I swear to fuck, y'all better not even mess with that person. Just because the church and pagans have always been at odds doesn't mean that there are some things that the church does that we need and that we do that the church needs. The same goes for jinn. Let me tell you about jinn. If you know that you're dealing with a jinn, then you better find someone who is Muslim, who is trained in getting rid of a jinn. That is exactly like an exorcism for a demon in the Catholic Church. They 100% have been trained in the scriptures, in all of the lore, in how to deal with jinn. They know how to help get rid of one. There's a reason that I am an omnist, and I'm going to explain that to you really quickly. An omnist is someone that does not believe any specific religion has everything correct, but they also do not believe that every religion is wrong, that there's stuff in every religion that is correct, and that they all work together. I have a very big respect. This is what I was taught as a kid. I have a very big respect for every cultural practice, for every religion, and for every religion's practice. And here's why. Especially, we just talked about the Catholic Church, and that is who you need to reach out to for anything at all that has to deal with an exorcism. If you are worried that there is a demon attached to someone or a house or whatever, don't fuck with it. Don't fuck with it. Call the closest Catholic church and ask if they have someone on staff that can help you. And if they don't, where can you call? Where's the next closest place? If you say somebody is over in the Middle East and they come back different, or they bring you back a box and weird shit starts to happen and you don't know what the fuck's going on, it's time for you to reach out to someone in the Muslim faith that knows about jinn, that knows about the things over in that area of the world. Not just some random person on social media. Be smart. You have this thing in here that's called a brain. And I want you to ask yourself the following question. If you ever come up against an entity or something in a paranormal investigation that makes you a little uncomfortable, do you really want to deal with that? I've been doing this a long time, and there's still a lot of times when my answer is nope, no, no. Sometimes, yeah, you know what? I'll talk to you. Let's have a chit chat. Like, I'm going to lay some ground rules first, but I've been doing this a long time, and I'm very comfortable with where my limits are. Know your limits. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Just be safe. That's all I want. Just be safe. Okay? So with that, I am going to get off of here, and I hope you guys have a good day. Yeah, I hope you guys have a good day. Be safe when you're on these investigations, okay?